There's never been a better time to have SiriusXM. With even more exclusive content, with over 150 channels in your vehicle, including the widest, deepest variety of music, ad-free. Root for your team. Get news. Listen to whatever makes you laugh. And hear all about your favorite stars. Your Platinum Plan offer includes more than ever before to enjoy online, on your phone, or at home. Create your own ad-free personalized stations powered by Pandora. Hear ad-free extra channels filled with music and enjoy a favorite shows with SiriusXM Video. Thousands of hours of shows and performances on demand. What you love is on now.
So all throughout these DSP sessions, we've done our very best to bring you all the possibilities, all the different brands that provide solutions in the DSP category. Well, today we've got a very unique solution and take on how to approach this. In fact, it might be something you're not even aware of when it comes to the feature set that this particular product has to offer. And that is, of course, the Axxess DSP modules by Metra. We've got the product expert, Jason Anderson, in the studio with us today, and we're going to go over the whole gambit. This is CMA Workshop presented by SiriusXM. Axxess, and it starts now. Welcome to another CMA Workshop presented by SiriusXM. I am your host, Ben Wu, and today we've got a unique one for you guys. Because, you know, when you're thinking about DSP, you're thinking about standalone processors. Maybe you're thinking about an amplifier with integrated DSP features. Well, what we're going to get into today is not only DSP, but DSP integration solutions done the Metra way. And what I mean by that, well, you're just going to have to stay here and find out. But first, let's reach out to their Canadian distributor who has a special guest with them in studio at Importel. Let's get them on and I'll introduce them both. Gentlemen.
Hey, Ben.
How are you guys doing? So look who we have here. We're with Importel, of course, Ramesh, who's their 12-volt specialist on the left. And, of course, we also have Gatlin, who's the Canadian sales manager for Metra. Guys, thanks for taking the time to get together on this one. This is an important category, and we're covering an important product in the Metra lineup, specifically to Axxess and Axxess DSP modules. OEM integration, let's start with you, Ramesh, can be a complicated proposition for many, but leave it to Metra to come up with a unique and effective solution in what can fit in so many of these modern vehicles that are showing up in shops today. In your opinion, what has Metra done to provide a unique and effective solution for dealers and consumers in this situation?
That's a great question, Ben. I mean, there's so many different integration options. We use the term DSP, we throw it out there all the time, and there's so many different ways to implement and use a DSP. And where Metra is really, the path that they've chosen to take is much different than what we're used to hearing when we say the word DSP. It's really a integration. I mean, it does so many different things. So we're going to cover them here today. It does in CAN-based solutions or vehicle solutions. We can actually use it as just at a sub in most 150 and A to B types of solutions. We can use it to as well as CAN. We can use it as an integration module to using a Toslink adapter to integrate into a existing DSP that dealers might have already installed in a vehicle, and they're moving it from vehicle A to vehicle B, or they've done it and the integration isn't really great. So there's this piece is not just your typical DSP with analog to digital or SPDIF outputs, but it also can be used to integrate in so many different ways. And I think a term that I like to use to describe it is a DSP-based integration harness. So it does have a graphic user interface that we can play with, but that's what's really unique about it, because it's not just the DSP with a graphic user interface that we can tune with. So pretty cool.
I'm going to have to agree with you. This is a unique piece. And as you know, I've covered everything that has to do with DSP. There is,
Yeah,
and
you
I
have.
can firmly say there is nothing right now out there that does what this unit does. So I myself are excited to have Jason kind of go through the motions and see how easy this is to set up. Because you're right, DSP is one thing, but this integration thing, game changer. Gatlin, how does this Axxess DSP module or unit? Why is it important for dealers to understand truly what this does, and for end users for that matter?
Well, honestly, for me, I think it should be the first piece that they look at when it comes to just your average vehicles that are coming inside of the bay. We'll look outside of your average Lamborghini and Ferrari and that type of thing. But, your average vehicles, your Hyundais, your Hondas, your Fords, your Chevys, your Dodge products, things like that. It all boils down to the throughput of the dealer, and which results in a controlled, cost for the end consumer. Repeatable and predictable. That's kind of one of the main things for us, is making sure that the installer and end user knows exactly what they're getting and what they're getting into.
Absolutely.
And then, it's less cost for the consumer as well to integrate. When you look at actually getting into a vehicle, doing your average kind of DSP integration, it's usually typically hardwired. You're having to do a lot of RTAing. You're having to do a lot of other type of
lots of figuring
out, and we've done all the hard work for you. So, literally you plug it in, you play it, you download the application guide and figure out which vehicles you can use, and you download the downloader for the updater, update it for your vehicle, and you're off to the races.
May I add one more item that you haven't mentioned yet, which is like one of my favorite words in the entire industry? T-harness. That's all I got to say right there. One of my favorite words of all time, because it makes me feel like I know what I'm doing. But we're going to get into that. Without further ado, why don't we go and reach out to the man himself, the brain behind the product. He is officially the Vice President of Research and Development over at Metra. And he's standing by, so we're going to bring everybody back in because we want him in on this. Obviously, he's going to give us some answers. A lot of questions we asked putting in. Take a note back. We're not going to do how much stuff this is. Let's go ahead and get everybody back in here and invite Mr. Jason Anderson to the studio. What's going on, Jason?
Morning.
We're doing very good. Kind of excited, as you can see. We're kind of motivated to talk about what we're about to get into today, because you know what? I've had my share of talking about these standalone, higher end units and integrated amp. This is a different conversation because it involves a lot of integration tools. So I'm really excited to kind of get into it. Let's start with picking your brain, Jay. When it came to developing this whole new line, I know didn't happen yesterday. It obviously took some time and brain power and team effort to get together. What was the goal when developing this line of product for Metra?
So the goal behind a product like Axxess DSP was really taking a step back and looking at some of the other products that are out there. And a lot of those products, the integration was done after the factory amplifier. And when you're doing an installation on the output side of a factory amplifier, there's much more room for error. There is more room for what's required to hide product, and more devices overall, summing devices, or the signals that are coming out of that factory amplifier. And the goal with all of that is to reproduce a flat frequency response so that an installer can add in any equipment that they want and get the sound that they're looking for. So that was the hurdle that we identified with the AX DSP product. And what we came up with was not just a DSP, but also an interface. Axxess has all faces. We're incredibly good at making interfaces. So it just made sense when we took a step back, saw the hurdles that installers are going through, and then we developed that helps them make that installation less cumbersome. So the idea behind the DSP is it communicates with the factory radio. And a lot of times those new factory radios that are out in the market today from the factory, they have fixed level audio signals. And that's a fixed level signal from the radio back to that factory amplifier. And that's really what presents when integrating aftermarket solutions, adding aftermarket equipment. So what the DSP does is it takes that information from the radio, decodes it, and then outputs a flat signal, whether it's a flat signal through RCA outputs, or we have an DSP product, a light version that has a Toslink adapter. So even if you choose not to use the DSP portion of the Axxess DSP, you can still catch Toslink or optical out and feed it in any other type of processor that you prefer to use. So when we take a step, we really look at the hurdles that we've always had to overcome with installation, whether it's Metro dashboards or vehicle interfaces. The development and the focus of the AX DSP is just a no-brainer. We're going to be pushing that thing further, farther, faster, because it's going to be the important product for integration moving forward.
I want to make a very strong comment here. You know, while everybody is focused on the engineering development, on the processing side of things, very few companies on the planet have the know-how nor the experience with the interface side of things, right? Mm-hmm. So to be able to have that backup foundation and then add the DSP to it, man, that is just genius level stuff, because now we're talking about access to so much information that Metro has already done the work for, as far as Molexes, connectors, T-harnesses, and all that type of stuff. It's just like it. Anyways, I'm just blown away that this actually came together, and I can see where it's going, because for a company to go from the DSP to add the interfaces versus the company that has the interfaces to go to DSP is just a completely different proposition. So having said that, I don't want to steal all your thunder. You dropped a lot of bombs in that one statement. Can you give us an overview of what we're going to learn today? I know there's a video involved and we're going to discuss it. So what are we going to learn today?
Yeah, so show a trimmed down version of an installation of the DSP product. It's going to be in a 2011 Ford Edge, and it's got the because it has that Sony system in it, is a product with a fixed level audio output. It has a factory amplifier in the vehicle. So in this particular installation, because it's CAN-based, system, the installation is going to be, we're going to take a video, we're going to show you how to get that T installed, and then we're through some of the app, setting it up, selecting the vehicle, and then getting that thing programmed. So awesome. Enjoy.
All right, so here we go. We're going to roll the video. When we come back, obviously, we're going to have some questions to talk about. Here we go.
Installation of a DSP-X. The installation is going to be done in this 2011 Ford Edge, and as you can see, it has a Sony system, which means it does have a fixed level audio output from the back of the radio to the factory amplifier located in the rear quarter panel. These types of systems, the communication, the data communication between the radio and the amplifier are what actually make the volume go up and down. So it's CAN bus information that tells the amplifier to increase or decrease volume. The radio outputs a fixed level. So for this installation, we're going to be using our AX DSP FD2 product. It's going to come with the DSP, your T harnesses, which for this particular installation will be both of these harnesses, and then our output harness. So obviously we're going to be getting rid of this factory amplifier, but we still want to retain the controls and features like fade and balance from the radio here. Now, one feature that I want to discuss and go over, just to clear up maybe any confusion, is the purpose of this 8-pin plug here. Now, our DSP T harnesses, because this radio is controlled via CAN bus information, so CAN high, CAN low information, and that's how we control the volume and the fade and the balance with the DSP. And because of that type of communication, the installation of the DSP and the T harness is done up front behind the radio. we have the option of using this 8-pin plug. If we connect it up, we're taking the audio out of the radio chassis and feeding the signal back to the factory amplifier, which means that we can keep all of our factory speakers working and functioning off of the factory amplifier, but we can choose to add in an aftermarket subwoofer. And that's simply by, if this is unplugged, by plugging this in. That becomes an option for us. Then you can set up your subwoofer crossover, you can equalize it, all from the DSP app. Now, if you're going to do a full replacement of the factory amplified system, you're going to get rid of that factory amp, then you want to leave this unplugged. You're basically letting the DSP take the audio in, manipulate it how the installer or the customer sees fit, and then output it through the standard low-level outputs. We can turn the ignition on. Go into our Axxess DSP app. This is the Axxess DSP XL app. It's going to open up. We're going to scan for our device. There it is. Now we're going to go in and select our vehicle type. Select General, Ford, select our model. Ford Edge, 11 to 14. Now this is an important part, and it was mentioned in our first part, is the Ford Edge without an OE amplifier or with an OE amplifier. This particular Edge has an OE amplifier. We're going to hit apply, and the DSP is going to now flash itself to be compatible and communicate with 2011 to 2014 Ford Edge. We can confirm that by going into the About screen and seeing that our vehicle info is Ford Edge 2011 to 14, has an OE amp. Yes, it does. And then this is additional information about the Axxess DSP XL app, DSP info, and also the model of the device that you're using, smartphone or tablet or whatever it is. So we know that it is functioning and that it is programmed. And if there is any questions about the DSP's output, we can hit identify. The only thing that we have to make sure of first is, we want to make sure that our amplifiers are connected, our aftermarket amplifiers. So we've got the DSP connected to our app, and we're ready to start adjusting the DSP's output. One of the first things we do is check and see that the DSP is in fact programmed correctly and that our amps are outputting to the right channel. To do that, we hit the identify button. And what this is going to do is send a chime to the front left speaker of the vehicle. This is going to confirm that in fact the DSP is processing the audio and outputting a signal. From there, we can go into outputs and we can select and program or allocate our output channels. This is where we can group them together. And then of course we've got crossover adjustments. I can have my crossovers preset on my app through the DSP. Got my equalization adjustment, time delay, and then my input levels and adjustments. So at this point, I've got a pink noise CD in the CD player, and we can start playing our pink noise. Now the track is set on repeat, and we can go through, and the benefit behind the DSP and the fact that this is a fixed level signal is we can go up in volume
And then we can go down in volume. And we retain our volume control. There's no need for an external volume control or an external source to control your system's level. And that's truly the benefit of the DSP. And we're going to just mess around with our EQ. And you can hear the differences of us adjusting our EQ. We can always return it back to flat if we choose to. We can go in and we can adjust the crossover and change our range of frequencies that the DSP operates at. Even go in and delay our system signal to our speakers. Turn that back to normal without any kind of time dynamic. And see, we can adjust, like I was mentioning, we can adjust our left independently, our right independently, our rear left, and even our subwoofer, which the amp has not been installed in the subwoofer yet, but when it does, we'll be able to control those low frequencies, just like we were with front, right, both front and rear outputs. So you can also notice that we have the ability to increase the output of one channel and decrease the output of one channel. So you can see the installation of the AXxess DSP-X-FD2 is relatively straightforward. Simple installation behind the OE radio, removal of the OE amplifier, amp bypass harnesses, and all the accessories that go with it to make this installation quick and as easy as possible. No longer do you need to have external volume controls or external equipment like summing devices or any kind of product that fixes the OE curve on the output side of the factory amplifier. The DSP is going to take care of it all. It interprets that the CAN bus information in this case and takes that fixed level audio out of the radio and converts it to a manageable signal that then you can manipulate through our free application, adjusting crossovers, equalization, time delay, and then saving this to the actual DSP. So with the rest of this installation here, I'm going to button all this up and put the back panel together, and this thing is ready to go. It's set up, and we're really excited about the product because it's going to save you time in the install bay. It takes away all of the guesswork, most of the troubleshooting, and it gets you to an end product, an end result that will ultimately save you time in the install.
All right, well, that pretty much shows exactly how it's done. And although I didn't see his face, I have a feeling that was you in the video, wasn't it, Jay?
It was, yes.
Okay, that's right. Lots of things to talk about here because, although the video demonstrated the basic setup and how easy it is to integrate, we want to have a discussion on just how wide of a net this type of product actually casts. So let's start by first pointing out what an amazing, clean, hassle-free solution this is for integration. Jay, you got to agree with that statement.
I do, and I went through in that video. We went through some of the features of the app, but one thing I would like to point out is, those features, a customer or an installer doesn't have to use those features. The goal behind the product is just for a flat output and to give you that flat output to feed into your aftermarket equipment. So even though the DSP app has a lot of functionality and a lot of settings, you don't really have to use any of them. You can just set everything flat and do all your tuning at your external DSP or your aftermarket amplifier.
I mean, the beauty thing about this is basically it transforms any scenario into the features of having an aftermarket radio is really what it's doing right here. Gatlin, I'd like for you to chime in on this statement where this is an amazing, clean, simple, hassle-free solution.
And that's the way that we market it. We go into retailers and dealers and talk to them about our DSP, and I always talk about the ease of use. The customer can take it out of the box, take the T harness out of the box, make sure you update the module for your application, and you're off to the races. Remove the factory radio, plug it in. You have a flatline signal output that you can jab into some amplifiers and start bobbing your head.
I look at Jason's response and I listen to Gatlin's response. Like, the Metro guys are by far the most chill guys when it comes to talking about DSP. Everybody's all like up in parametric EQs and all this stuff, and you guys.
Well, it has. I mean, the DSP X. I mean, we have as many channels as
totally.
It'll on a spec. If you want to do spec sheet dyno racing, the DSP X will hold its own on on the spec sheet dyno, but it does a bunch of other stuff, right? And that's what and
it's application based too. So when you look at the the wide variety of different harnesses that are available in the application base that we have, no one can touch it. And that's just how it comes down to the product is that our application base is so wide and vast, and it's always growing. And I'm sure Jason can attest to that.
Yeah, Jason had something. I think you want to jump in here. What you got, Jay?
Well, I think just to add to that, I think we Axxess, we do interfacing, right? And the DSP is just another form or another version of interface that's just going to help the installer get that job done quicker, right? So, yeah, it's great. It's awesome that it has a DSP because we are processing audio, but it's also an interface. And I think that's where there's a difference between maybe some of the way that the other guys talk about their DSPs versus the way that Metro and Axxess talk about ours.
It's like ultimate status. Honestly, this is very ultimate. Ramesh, you're on the phone with dealers every day. Let's go down that avenue for a second.
Well, Jay just actually said something that was interesting. He said interface. I mean, if you remember back to the 90s, and we had the amplified Ford bypass harness that was like revolutionary. It's like, oh, we could bypass an amp and put a factory radio in. This is sort of a modern way of we're not putting a radio in, but it's a modern way of doing that. We're using actual technology because the vehicles have actual technology, not just analog little wires.
True integration.
It's just we're evolving. I think Axxess has Metro has evolved with the technology in the vehicles. So
absolutely,
kudos to you guys.
Appreciate it.
Where I wanted to go with this, Ramesh, is you hear the challenges or the sometimes frustrations, from dealers calling in to Importel saying, "Hey, listen, I got this vehicle in the bay, blah 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 blah." How do these Axxess units address some of these popular concerns / challenges that you hear coming in from dealers?
Well, you know what? It's kind of interesting. You use the word frustration. Like I mean, I'll go one further and say that there's a good portion because we have thousands of dealers literally coast to coast, not hundreds. We have varying degrees of varying types of vehicles like Gatlin alluded to earlier, varying technologies like Jason mentioned earlier. You have CAN bus based vehicles. We have most 150, most 25, A to B. There's all kinds of stuff with a vehicle that'll roll into a dealer from, the left coast to the right coast, right? And they'll roll into the shop, and you don't know what's going to roll in till it rolls in. And unless you've literally done your research on that particular chassis or audio architecture, you have no idea what that's going to be, right? So 20 years ago, as alluding to with Jason, that kind of amp bypass was a bunch of wires going from pin to pin. It was just basically a repinned harness. That isn't the case anymore. And all the technologies are specific and different. And having one solution or one piece of hardware or one manufacturer that can allow you to get a flat output across the board is I'm going to go out there and say virtually unheard of because the number of applications that we have are huge. So to your question directly, what are some of the challenges that go on? Well, you'll have a customer rolling in with, let's say, a CAN bus vehicle, which, Gatlin earlier had said, we're not talking about Maseratis. I'm not even going to go there. He's right. You could roll in with a Dodge Ram. You could roll it with a
very
F-150,
common, very
right?
common.
These are coast to coast. They're everywhere. They're not cost prohibitive to own, even especially not as a 4-year-old or 5-year-old used vehicle, and you probably bought the one that had the nav and the nice audio system, but it's not really that nice. It was just nicer than the other ones. So how do we make it better? Well, customers rolls in and goes, I just spent $25,000 or $30,000 on a used vehicle, probably 100 now for a used truck. But anyways, I digress. How are we going to add a sub to it? Oh, I have this Axxess thing here. I can add a sub and maintain the amplified system. Oh, well, there's a head shaker, right? We said DSP earlier, so everyone thinks that, oh, this is a DSP, and we gotta go put amps and everything. Well, in a CAN bus based solution that's on the application guide, no, you don't. So there's one application, there's one challenge that you'll see often. And if you don't do it this way, and if you use even an Axxess line output converter, I'm not even going to talk about other brands, you're basically going to fail. And when I say you're going to fail is we don't know what the output is from the high level coming out of the amplifier, because we haven't brought our RTA out, or handheld RTA, and we may not even own one. And we haven't measured the signal, and we don't know how much bass, if any, is going to be there, or whether it's a bandpass signal because we just want to tap into it like we did 20 years ago, but doesn't work in 2018 plus. So that's a really common request. Next would be, hey, I just want this thing to sound a lot better. Okay, well, we still use the same T harness. Or that last guy that came in with the CAN bus-based vehicle, we're like, hey, come back later. We'll put a DSP-based amp in. We'll use the same DSP module that we have in the car with the same T harness, and we'll deploy it differently. So now we can use it we can use the Toslink adapter if we had a DSP Lite. We could use the Toslink adapter, which we just sell when he comes in on the second job, or the upgrade or expanded system. Mm-hmm. We put that DSP Lite in, and then we can use any DSP that we want. But we're still controlling the bings and the bongs. So all of the chimes and the navigation and all of the things that you can't do high level, whether it like if you're just using a standard high level with an LOC, you have no control.
Unless you want like full range Siri coming in through all your channels. I mean, I don't know.
Right. It's just going to be screaming at you.
Yeah.
So now when you go into the software, right, even on a DSP-L, right, in any of those scenarios, you can tell it how to handle those bings and bongs. So even if we're going analog out of a DSP Lite or DSP-X, we're able to do that. Then we can go out with the Toslink adapter and go into another brand of DSP amplifier, but we still need the DSP in the module, which is why I say it's a DSP-based integration harness with a GUI. So we can go into the graphic user interface and make the adjustments and tuning that we want to make right out of that. We can use an integrated DSP amplifier because it's a really small size, and we can go optically using the Toslink adapter in. We still have control in the upmixer of the third-party amp DSP of the bings and the bongs, because it's digital now and it can interpret bings and bongs.
Can I interrupt and add one more scenario I literally just thought of right now? Mm-hmm. What if Buddy just bought new vehicle, has let's say F41, F-150, he's got to deal with this situation, but he's got a 4-channel and a mono amp from his previous system that he wants. He loves the sound of that had no DSP.
So that's where the analog.
There you go.
That's where that analog section is, right? And that still doesn't prevent you from using the same hardware later if he comes back and goes, "Hey man, I need you to go bigger." We're not selling the customer when we talk about repeatable results, right? So, and for the consumer, that means less install time that he's got to pay for, less possible hurdles for the consumer. So as we install this and send it on its way, we can guarantee what's going to happen. We could guarantee what was going to happen before the car ever came in.
And if I may
talk
add
about quickly, the bings and the bongs and how, Metra interprets all of the factory functions and features. Maybe Jason can chime in here if he has a moment. Chime in. He was saying, in regards to how our DSP can control the bings and the bongs. So maybe Jason can kind of reiterate how that actually functions and how we duplicate those things in our DSP quickly.
Yeah, no problem. So the recreation of the chimes in the DSP, that's actually a patented. We hold a patent on that feature, and that's a primary reason for why the DSP is such a desired product. And I heard you guys kind of talking about it before, but GM and their chimes out of the front left speaker are notorious for causing problems for the installer because they can't capture that full signal. And in some cases, they lose the chime, so the customer no longer has the chime. And in other cases, the chime is way too loud, and then they have to go in and they have to adjust the EQ to bring that level down. So what the DSP offers is a level adjustment, a volume adjustment for the chimes. So you can increase.
We're not interpreting where it's going. Level. It's going out of the factory location as always, correct?
I didn't hear what you said.
Oh, sorry. So the signal for the bings and the bongs, we're always assuming where they're coming from is based out of the factory location. So if the signal's coming from the driver's left front speaker, it is always assumed that it's going to be there. We're not able to manipulate that signal to now then go to the rear right speaker. We're always just having it go to the left front.
It's going to come through the left front on the majority of the vehicle applications that are out there. Now, if you're in a situation where you're keeping the factory amplifier and you're adding a subwoofer, then the amplifier is handling, for example, rear parking sensors. So if from the factory that amplifier handles the parking sensors and it outputs from the rear speakers, because that amplifier is still online and because those speakers are still connected to that amplifier, then those chimes are going to be retained through the original speakers. Now, if you're going to get into a situation where you're going to remove that amplifier entirely and put the DSP in its place, then those chimes would be coming from the front left speaker and would be controllable through the app so that you can adjust the levels. So they're not going to blow you out or they're not going to be too low. So
awesome. I have a question, Jay.
Sure.
Gatlin mentioned it. You mentioned it as well. Many different applications to choose from, obviously. What is the best way for a dealer to find out which features are available depending on the application? What's the best way for them to get that information?
So the great thing about the DSP is it's really designed to integrate seamlessly into that factory radio. So it basically is going to mimic that amplifier. So the features are universal across the DSP. You're going to retain your fade. You're going to retain your balance. Your bass and treble control is going to be retained. Because you're going to be bypassing that amplifier, factory amplifier, in many cases, the ANCs are no longer going to play a part in things that the installer has to bypass inside the vehicle. And all of these features are universal across the entire line. So if we have a T-harness solution for a particular vehicle, our DSP, whether it's an X or an L, is going to work with that vehicle. If you want to stay up to date on like the latest applications that we have, because we're always adding new vehicles, we're always testing vehicles, we're always filling in the gaps, application gaps that we have online. We update our vehicle fit guide almost daily. I encourage anybody to go to the Axxess Interfaces website, put their year, make, and model vehicle, and if we have a DSP solution, it's going to pop up, and it's going to retain the features that I was just telling you about.
Pretty simple stuff. Pretty simple stuff. Gatlin, there's no doubt in my mind after hearing this dialogue that this is yet another product that always supports what you always say. And what you always say is Metra is a great partner to help streamline and make things more efficient in the Bay. This product is no different.
Yeah, and that's just it, right? We have done all of the hard work for the installer and end user. When you look at our DSP, our AX DSP X or our Lite, and with all the applicated T harnesses that are involved, we've literally done all of the hard work for you. So when the installer is looking at a solution for a vehicle that has come into the Bay, I encourage them to, like Jason said, look at our website, make sure the application is available for them. And typically on your day-to-day vehicles that you're seeing inside the Bay, we're going to have a solution for you. And if we don't, we're going to soon. And you should always look at our piece first. It's take apart the radio, plug it in, play, add your amplifiers, make some money, send the vehicle out the door. It's a profitability in the Bay piece. It's very quick to easy to use. any of the factory functions and features in our DSP can automatically be assumed to be out of the factory locations. When we look at our competition or other pieces that are out there that are able to manipulate where those signals can go, we're not doing any of that. We are simply just giving you exactly what the factory radio is doing. We're duplicating that and sending it out into a flatline signal output, 6 channels out, 4 channels for your highs and lows, a channel for your subwoofer. We can give you volume control. In the case of the DSP Lite, you can add that Toslink piece that Ramesh and I and Jason and yourself have talked about on numerous occasions. We have many dealers that use that piece. It's an awesome integration piece that will allow you to get in, get out. And that's literally what it is. It's an easy piece. There's not a whole lot of RTAing or, thought process or complicating the situation. It's really just that. It is plug it in, update it, play.
I love what you're saying there, and I want to make sure what I'm about to say rings loud and clear for our viewers. This is not a piece that you have to get your master technician to install, guys.
No.
Your junior can do this. I mean, that's number one, because we're talking about T-harnesses. The other point I want to bring up about T-harnesses, I'm going to draw a parallel to the remote starter business. Mm-hmm. The remote starter business for a long time was under a lot of heat from new car dealerships. Why? There was things going wrong in the install. When the customer would bring their vehicle to the car dealership to have something fixed, guess what they did? Oh, well, it's because you put in this and you tapped into these wires and it's causing these problems. Well, guess what happens when you put a T-harness into a vehicle? It can be removed and put back to stock. Right. You know what I mean? So I wanted to point that out. That's an obvious added benefit to this whole scenario.
For sure.
Right? Before I ask Jason this final question, I wanted Ramesh to kind of chime in here because we talked about future-proofness of the system. We talked about the flexibility of where this piece fits. We talked about some of the features that honestly I'm hearing for the first time. For whatever reason, it's great. This is why we do this, to make sure we get the information out. Yep. Ramesh, from your standpoint, this has been a piece. It's not a new piece, which is interesting, but now it's more than ever. It's becoming more and more relevant. And
I want to say 17-ish, 16, 17 maybe, Jason?
It's Jason's baby. He would know. He'd know the birthday.
Yeah, he knows the birth date of his baby, his first baby.
What's the birth date of this product?
Of this product?
Yeah.
You guys testing I can barely remember my birthday.
We're safe to say it's been a couple years since
I think it was launched in 2016, 2017.
And look at the growth and the application, right? Potential where it's gone to as far as the catalog. So, Ramesh, I just wanted to ask you, I mean, have we missed anything here that you maybe in this dialogue have thought of another scenario that dealers could oh my God, yeah, it does that too?
We've done add a sub. We've done add an amp. We've an analog amp. We've done add a DSP, a third-party DSP.
We're missing the Bluetooth adapter chip.
There's the Bluetooth adapter.
Right, the Bluetooth. Mm-hmm.
Right?
Instant streaming.
So you can go high-quality audio directly into the DSP, doing the DDA conversion there, and bypassing any of the other analog nonsense that you may already have going on in your car.
You can use our DSP as the source.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. So you can use that as a source. We've got a plug and play for the Polaris. We've got a plug and play for the Harley Davidson. We've got every car.
We talk about that. Yeah.
Right.
Multi-platform.
I was looking up a Polaris the other day. Literally, dealer call goes, some guy's coming in with a Polaris. I need to build a quote. I know nothing about Polarises. What do I need to know?
There you go.
Well, right. So if you're not looking at this product, because you have this concept that it's a DSP is a box that goes in the trunk of a car that you plug RCAs into and then RCAs out of, you completely miss the boat. And I think that's where we're, you ask if we covered any applications. Maybe the application is in our own bays and even inside our own buildings, whether it's us or anywhere else. Maybe we're just missing how to think about this. Mm-hmm. Because we're thinking about we use the term DSP, and you rolled the show off talking about DSP is a huge word and it's a huge brand. Well, it's a huge word, but not the way that it's being used right now with Axxess. No. It literally is not intimidating, not scary. The chances are of me being able to say yes rather than no or maybe are super, super high because we have so many applications. Exactly. There's so many T harnesses, and then we've got think is it 47, 42? How many harnesses? What did you say the other day?
It's actually hard to say currently, but
Oh,
we're
'cause
up
it
there in
keeps
the
moving.
60s actually.
So you're up, it's like 60 plus harnesses,
Always changing.
and then sorry, say again.
It's always changing.
Right.
Ever
Always.
changing, ever
Stay-
changing.
Yes, we have to call Jay every day to find out how many there are. No, it's kidding.
9 a.m. text message. What do we have now?
How many do we have? Is it go away?
I have a quick question for Jason. If you could just spend a minute here defining the difference between the regular AX DSP and the light version, just for clarification.
Yeah, of course.
Chanel.
So AX DSP is 6 channels of input signal to 10 channels of output. It also offers a 31 band graphic EQ for all channels. So all 10 channels have an independent 31 band graphic EQ. The light is a smaller version, smaller in that it only has 4 channels of input and 6 channels of output. Within the DSP, the graphic EQ, another difference between the X and the L is the light has 15 bands of equalization across all 6 outputs. So, and that's pretty much the primary difference. Now, let's say, for example, that you guys carry a light in stock and an X in stock, and you have one T harness. Well, that T harness is going to work with both products. So whatever is going to best suit your customer's needs or what you currently have available in the shop, the great thing is that those T harnesses were designed to work with both products. And what I will say, kind of to build on what Ramesh was saying a little bit, just a little bit ago, is the Axxess line has many other products within the DSP family, right? So we have Ford's A to B, we have GM Most 50. We've recently come out with a Most 25 interface. We have SPIDIF for Hyundai and Honda vehicles. So when I did an install on a 2017 Ford Fusion, and in that vehicle, it is A to B. And really what set my installation apart, because I personally did the installation, was how quick and easy it was. So I removed that factory amp. I plug in our Axxess A to B DSP. I had an amp bypass harness already. With our amp bypasses, everything's got heat shrink labels on it and everything else. So it took all the guesswork of tracking down what speaker was what. I didn't have to tone anything. I didn't have to use the polarity tester or anything like that. I knew exactly what I was connecting it to. And because they were plugs, I was able to wire that up externally, bring it to the vehicle, plug everything in. And my installation was incredibly quick. The longest part of the installation, and this is important, I think, for installers, but the longest part of my installation was running 4-gauge wire from my battery to the back of the car. Now, when's the last time that any of us with that level of integration has been able to say that the 4-gauge, running the 4-gauge from the engine compartment to the back of the car took the longest amount of time for the install? And that's truly where I think the DSP holds the most value. Not only the DSP, but also the amp bypass harnesses as well. Those are kind of married together. I definitely recommend installers using those because it's just going to make your installation just that much easier. So that was just something I wanted to express to you guys and also to the viewers to make sure that they really see the full scope of the time that this thing can save.
So when you're calling in to Importel and you're ordering that unit, make sure to find out if there's an amp harness at the same time. It's going to save
when
you
you're calling into your local retailer and you're a consumer, ask them if they're using an Axxess
instead
DSP,
of cutting up stuff.
Get the speaker plugs and the speaker ring adapters.
Everything.
Off to the race.
Yeah, there you go.
Absolutely.
Jason, my last question. It's a big one. You ready for it?
I am.
This is a huge product line, obviously. Tons of resources have been put into this. What does that look like moving forward? Are we talking more applications? Do you see different features being added? I mean, it kind of has to do with also with the type of vehicles that are coming out from a OE side of things. But that's my question. Where do you see this moving forward?
So The DSP product moving forward is going to be the staple. I mean, hands down, I see it as a staple piece for any shop moving forward. Anybody can walk through a new car dealership or cruise through the internet and all the new vehicles coming out, and they can see the types of radios that cars are coming out with: large screen formats, integrated, personalization, electric cars, right? Control and functionality for the electrical charging system and the new EVs. All of that is done through that radio, or what used to be our radio. Now it's infotainment center, right? So as we move forward, and as these OEs move forward, our integration is going to move towards integration at that factory amplifier. So what Axxess and Metra is putting a lot of focus on is obviously developing our application list, pushing forward with new technologies like A to B, like Most 150. Romesh had mentioned Most 150 earlier. That's something that we're looking at and will be coming out with in the future, because there are a lot of vehicles that are coming out with that level of communication, that type of communication. So with the Most 25 product, a lot of European cars, Audis, BMW, Mercedes, all of those cars are getting older, and to a point where they're more available to everybody price-wise.
They're accessible, absolutely.
When somebody buys an older car like that, it has older technology. You're going to want to upgrade that audio. So the DSP and the Most 25 interface, that can do that for you. So as we move forward, not only, we're always going to have our push for Metra and building plastics and building interfaces to replace that factory radio. But at the same time, we're also going to be developing the other side of that, which is focusing strictly on amp integration. So
that's it right there.
Metra, Axxess, we're not going to stop. We're going to push forward. As new technologies come out, Axxess will have a solution.
In other words, let's keep texting you every morning on what the updates have been.
Block.
Jason, I can't thank you enough for coming in today. Your insight has obviously been incredibly helpful, and congrats for the team. If I haven't already said this on this category, basically you guys have created a category that's unique to yourselves, and certainly we see where this is headed based on what you just said right there. So thank you again.
Well, we appreciate it. It's important for partners like you guys, both Importel and CMA, to really help educate consumers, installers, and everybody that's in our industry, because the more that we know and the more that we understand, the better that we all operate within our industry, and the better growth we get overall. So we're going to continue to push, but we definitely appreciate your guys' support, and we're going to continue doing our thing if you guys continue to do yours.
Deal.
Yeah,
Pinky sweared.
Keep doing it. Being able to come onto it and doing a segment like this and really kind of delving into the details. I think we've learned a lot more about the product internally. The number of meetings I've had with dealers and internally, going, hey, did you know that? So if we're doing that, that means that you guys are really coming out with technology that we need, and messages that we need to know. So thanks for taking all the time out to plan this with us, and of course, and be here today.
On that note,
thank you, Jason.
Take care, Jason.
All right, guys.
Thank you.
Right. Guys, that was kind of clutch. I learned a lot there. I didn't realize how important this piece was until this session. I hope you guys are watching kind of got the same vibe. Let's go ahead and talk one more time and get our final thoughts here with Gatlin and Romesh. We'll bring them back in. Guys, what are the most important takeaways? There's a lot. Let me hear, Gatlin, you first. Important takeaways.
I think the most important takeaway for this entire session is really to kind of remember Just the ease of use of the solution that Axxess and Metra has created for our end users and consumers, and for our distributors and all the tech support guys that are out there, is to kind of take away a lot of the complicated thought process when it comes to DSPs, and rely on the brand of Metra and Axxess to kind of push your shop forward, push the installer forward, get those cars out of the bay. It's an easy solution. I always talk about the whole plug and play, thing. It's talked about frequently about plug and play, but the reality is that we've done all the hard work for you. Don't overthink it. Get the car in, remove that factory radio, plug our DSP in, download the app, and go forward from there. Add your amps, your speakers, do your tuning, and send that car out the door. Even when it comes to the optical output piece, if you're planning on just getting it in and getting it out, literally plug it in, add our optical output piece, optical out into whatever amplifier DSP you're planning on using. And even if you don't have a head source, things like a factory radio, and you're planning on adding some type of source, take our DSP Lite, add our Bluetooth piece, you now have a source. So there's really not much about our DSP that doesn't leave you with something to desire. There's a solution for every vehicle application that is within our spectrum. And of course, as Jason mentioned earlier, our list is always continually growing. So the takeaway is, visit our Axxess DSP website, axxessinterfaces.com, type in your year, make, and model, type in add an amplifier, check out the application that is available for your application. I encourage our retailers, end users, distributors, everybody to take a quick glance at the left-hand side of the screen once they've done that, so they can see what it is retaining, what it's not retaining, and then also click on the PDF and the instructions. Blow that thing up, take a look at what's going on. It'll give you keynotes about things like ANC removal, if you need to, if you don't need to. And we are always constantly updating our website. And so as the application list grows, you'll see more information on the website in regards to the technicalities of what most DSPs are kind of looking at these days.
Last word is with you, Ramesh. I mean, Gatlin pretty much nailed it right there, but I'd like to hear, your final message to dealers. They've made it this far. What's the last thing they need to know before we tune out?
He's available 24 hours a day.
Well, the website's available 24 hours a day,
Absolutely.
and so no, the takeaway is simple. I mean, integration. Consumers come to dealers for their expertise. We need to be experts in this area, and one of the best ways to do it is to be checking the Axxess website first. Once you check that website and you see what you can offer, it's easier to sell from a position of what or build systems, or two different variants of systems, or three choices for the consumer, good, better, best, or whatever it is. Once you know what's available to you, if there's a T-harness available, you always use it. It gives you a repeatable, predictable result, which is what we've talked about every single time we've come on CMA Networks. No matter what we've
That should
been
be our
talking
slogan.
about.
It should be like a slogan.
You know
for
what?
everybody.
We didn't coin it. I mean, the industry's been using it for years. It is the best way for, and I keep bringing consumers in because consumers have the ability to watch these videos and inform themselves with the same information that that dealers have access to. The reason the consumer wants a repeatable, predictable result is that it costs them less in the long run, because we're not like Gatlin was talking about, using, earlier we talked about getting your RTA out and Jade brought up, toning speakers and trying to figure out polarity and all that stuff. Well, even for a professional dealer that does this every day, if you don't have to do it, then the consumer's not paying for it either. So for the consumer, you get a more price conscious solution, because you're not paying for 2 or 3 hours or whatever it is to decipher the car and come up with a solution. So it's predictable. We know what it's going to be ahead of time. Like Jason said, we could do some of the preliminary wiring, while you're having your coffee or whatever, 2 days, 3 days before the car ever shows up. You get into the car, and you plug and play everything you need to do, whether you're doing add a sub or add a DSP, or using that DSP, that built-in DSP to an X to handle the system or to tune the system. It doesn't really matter. You're in there and out. So everybody should want this. The dealer should want to be using it because it's more throughput through the shop because you're not having to bill 5 extra hours to get that one car done or whatever it is. I'm just throwing numbers out there, right? So it's better for the dealer. You get more jobs done in a day or in a week or in a month or in a year. It's better for the consumer because it's costing you less and you're getting exactly what was sold to you. There's no variance.
And not losing any feature from your vehicle.
Right.
Let's
You're
forget about
retaining
that
all
part.
the features, whatever the salesperson told you was going to happen. Like Jay was talking about the installer. The salesperson out front is often designing the system, maybe with some input from the installer. But he's proposing the value proposition, right? He's giving the value proposition to the consumer. When the consumer gets this product back after they've, relinquished their hard-earned funds, the proposition needs to be there and it needs to deliver. And this is 100% predictable. So there's no reason that you would want to do it any other way. Why would you want to tap into wires? Why would you want to try to figure it out? There's no reason to try and do any of it.
I kind of like the sound of a clicked Molex myself. Just
click the Molex in there, man.
I'm just saying.
Tug on it. It's in there.
It's good to
move
go.
on. Move on.
All right. So we mentioned the website on several occasions. I'd like to bring this up right now. If you're looking for more information, axxessinterfaces.com. Do what Gatlin said. Put in your vehicle make model. It literally will punch out everything they make and what features come out with said application. Now, if you're in Canada and you're like, I need some of this Axxess action, give the guys at Importel a call. Get access to the Axxess. Importel.com. Ramesh and his team are literally standing by to take your order.
24 hours a day.
Galen,
the website is available 24/7. Right.
Yes. Galen, thanks for taking the time to hook up with Ramesh at Importel. Really appreciate that. And we look forward to the next one, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks,
guys. Appreciate that. Take care.
All right. DSP still on the prowl here at CMA Networks. Nonstop coverage of every major brand. Keep it locked right here until Thursday, July 28th, where I'm proud to say we are featuring every imaginable brand that's available and does stuff in the DSP category. And if you like this video and want to learn more, we have actually a few other videos that we've done with Jason and Metro when it comes to DSP as well with Importel. Go ahead and check out our website, cmanetworks.com, and search for every video, either by brand, by category, or your favorite trainer. Jason himself has his profile right up there. That's it. Thanks for tuning in for this CMA workshop presented by SiriusXM. I'm your host, Ben Wu. Until next time, we connect.
I mean, yeah, let's talk about
Stop
it. Today where I'm gonna go
Yo,
topics.
roll it down.
I am.
You don't need a car to listen to SiriusXM. You can listen anywhere. You know that, right?
What? Kevin Hart's Laugh Out Loud Radio.
Kevin, you could use your phone.
What? What?
Alexa, play Kevin Hart's Laugh Out Loud Radio on SiriusXM.
What?
This is how I know you're getting old. I guess that was it.
What?